We're responsible for organizing the largest Poor People's March 8 years ago in Philadelphia, in which 10,000 people marched peacefully in the city. And then again, we were responsible for a massive Poor People's March that took place in New York City, the largest ever again in history of poor people, in which it was a peaceful demonstration. I'm here back home in my hometown of Minnesota. I've been here and I'm back home here to live, and am very saddened by the fact that in my hometown we have not been granted not even a meeting, a phone discussion, you name it, regarding our request for a permit to march with poor people on September 2nd. We were granted immediately a permit for the park, Mears Park in St. Paul, but we've been totally ignored. And we feel like as poor people in this country, representatives of victims of Katrina, victims who have lost their homes as a result of the floods in Iowa and in Minnesota, folks that are losing their homes due to foreclosure, you name it, should have an opportunity to have their voices be heard. We don't have millions of dollars to hire lobbyists. The only thing that we have is our voice. And we're bound and determined to make sure that during this presidential election, that the voices of the poor are heard. We know that thousands of reporters are coming from across the entire nation. We don't have money for billboards and for advertisement, but what we do have is the ability to march. And so that's what we intend to do on September 2nd. Now, we really hope that, we had hoped that the city would organize a meeting with us if they had any kind of confusions about traffic or anything like that. But again, we've been totally ignored. So this morning, we filed a complaint in federal court, and right now I'd like to bring up our attorney, Jordan, from the National Lawyers Guild. Jordan?
My name is Jordan Kushner. I'm one of 3 attorneys of record on the case. We're all members of the National Lawyers Guild, an organization that has a very strong interest in protecting the right to dissent. And this is the second lawsuit that we're involved in as a group to protect to enforce the rights of people to protest at the convention. This is the second time that the city of St. Paul has not responded to a legal request for a permit that it's legally entitled to. And both times it's taken a lawsuit to get the city to respond. In this case, the application papers were filed back on April 2nd. Under St. Paul's ordinances, they were required to give a decision on that permit within 21 days. They didn't do so. They changed their rules in the middle of this process. They implemented new guidelines signed by the assistant police chief, which aren't legal because there's already a city ordinance in place that has a 21-day permit process. But in these new guidelines that they decided to adopt outside their normal process, the requirement was that they make a decision on permits within 60 days. So based on these new rules that aren't valid, they were required to make a decision by May 31st of 2008, and they have ignored the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign and refused to give them any response to a permit application. Whether their route is appropriate or not, they had an obligation to give them an answer and let them know whether or not they were going to grant their permit to protest. And if they had some problems with this specific permit application, they had the option of changing the conditions of their permit. They haven't done so. So what this indicates, what their prior pattern indicates, is that the city of St. Paul doesn't have any interest in protecting the free speech rights of people who have statements to make around the Republic Convention. Their concern is what's reflected in their literature, which they see this as a big business opportunity to bring in a lot of money based on all the tens of thousands of Republican operatives who are coming into town, and they are forgetting about, ignoring the rights of regular citizens to come and express their opinion. The lawsuit, as Sherry stated, was filed today. It's been served on the opposing parties. It's been served on the city and the officials that are involved in this case. We look forward to a quick response. It's unfortunate that we need the court to enforce rights to free speech. The city officials claim that they were committed to it. Their actions do not suggest that they have any interest in free speech. So we're confident that the court is going to act according to the law, which will require that the city of St. Paul will grant a permit so that the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign can have their rally and legally march. What's your name?
My name's Tristan. I work with the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign, trying to, and not even trying, on the goal and the mission to abolishing poverty, homelessness, and the faults and the fallacies in healthcare.
You know any homeless people personally?
Personally, yeah, I know a lot of homeless people, and right now their situation ain't looking too good.
Because they don't have access to health care. People, they're going to die today because they can't afford their medicine. The folks that, years later still don't have a home as a result of Katrina. Some of the vets that have come back and are struggling with healthcare issues. These issues, the war that's taking place at home, the fight for the American people's survival, that needs to be heard. And the only thing that we have is our voice. And we're hoping that the city, after we've asked them to come to the table, will come to the table and realize that the least of us in this country deserve to have their access to their voice. We're very frustrated because there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not the Peace and Justice March has been granted a permit or not granted a permit, and what is the route. We're very supportive of those folks, but there's been absolute silence about this Poor People's March, and we certainly, if you Google us, we have one hell of a history of organizing very large marches in this country of poor folks, and we've got religious leaders coming from across the country, and we've got celebrities coming, and the fact that we've just totally been ignored is just like we don't know what to do.
What about Assistant Chief Foster's contention that you'll have plenty of space, static space, in which to demonstrate, and that should just be sufficient if you don't get to march?
We feel like, if there's anybody we should roll out the carpet for, is the citizens that have the least of us in this country. And so we figured one day, this is our one shot. This is where the majority of reporters are going to be in town at one particular moment, and we have a responsibility to the people that are going to die today.